It's time we return to the realm of the Dreamwalker. If you missed the first 2 chapters, you'll find the links in the description below. I'm sure you'll want to check them out before diving into what comes next. Please do us the honor of liking and subscribing to the channel. Your support is deeply appreciated. Now sit back and prepare yourself for another descent into the realm of dreams.
"Neil, is it?" she said as the portal closed behind us. "Be on guard here, Dreamwalker. Death is but a heartbeat away, for one as weak as you. Come, let's get to safer grounds." As the words left her lips, she began to run slowly at first, but quickening her pace with each step. I followed. Each breath seemed to set my lungs ablaze, singed the hairs of my nostrils. What was this place? All around me was this world that seemed to be born of fire. From the 2 volcanoes in the distance with hot lava running down the sides to the embers dancing in the air as we ran. It wasn't long before we came upon a cave. The air burned with each breath I took as I stood at its entrance, hands on my knees gasping for air. I looked up at her. She looked back at me with an eye as if she were searching for something. As I caught my breath, I asked a question that had been eating at me from the start of our run. "The other wolves, where are they?" She studied me for a long moment before speaking. "You mean my pack? They are here, but you are not one with the pack as of yet. You see, I am serving as its alpha. Our alpha was lost 1,000 years ago. I have not found one worthy since," she stated. "So you are hoping that I am worthy?" "Yes. In time we will find out if you are worthy of not just me being your guardian, but if you shall hold the power of the pack as it was intended a millennia ago." There was sorrow in her eyes, but it didn't weaken the steel in her voice. Some things don't need to be said, while others require action. I resigned myself in that moment to not pry but brace myself for what was to come. The cave opened before us like the open maw of a beast, dark, silent, and hot as a kiln. Inside, the heat didn't fade. If anything, it seemed to wrap tighter around my chest. The walls were smooth in places, jagged in others, blackened from centuries of rising heat. Thin streams of molten rock oozed through deep cracks, casting an eerie red glow across the interior like veins under a scorched skin. Despite the flickering light, shadows clung to the edges, danced about us just out of reach. Embers drifted in now and then from the outside, carried by the wind, only to fizzle out midair. She moved with familiarity, stepping over shallow pits in the floor where the stone still steamed. In the center of the cave was a flat, elevated shelf of rock, natural but clearly used before. Scratches lined its surface. Burn marks. A place of rest, or a place of judgment. I did not know. "We stay here tonight," she said, sitting cross-legged atop the slab like it belonged to her. "It is safer than the open flame." I nodded and eased myself down onto a patch of stone that wasn't blistering to the touch. "You'll need your strength," she added. "When the sun rises, your journey begins." Morning came with a hand upon my shoulder, rousing me from my night of slumber. "Move!" she shouted. With that, she bounded out of the cave and I followed, doing my best to match her pace. The land in the morning light was something to behold. Though the heat clung to the air like a second skin, the world stretched out before me in stark, rugged beauty. Off in the distance, I could now see a mountain range, not far from the twin volcanoes I hadn't noticed until now, their peaks cloaked in a faint haze of smoke. The trees stood like ancient soldiers, tall and proud, awaiting the day's battles. A dry breeze swept across the landscape, hot as dragon's breath. Sweat beaded on my brow as I labored to keep up with Uday. She moved effortlessly across the terrain, each motion precise, graceful, instinctual. We ran eastward from what I could tell. Before long, another range came into view, nestled beside a forest so dense and green it looked untouched by war or time. The land here felt ancient, scarred but alive. Somewhere nearby I heard the rush of water, a river or waterfall, I couldn't be sure. But I could smell it, crisp and clear, cutting through the heat like a whispered promise. And then we arrived. Set into the face of the stone ahead was the entrance to a massive cave. On either side of the opening stood two statues, armor-clad wolves carved with near-mythic precision into the rock itself. Their expressions were solemn, fierce, eternal. The design reminded me of something I'd seen in books, monuments from ancient Egypt, guardians carved to ward off what didn't belong. Above the cave mouth, a narrow stone platform jutted out. A guard stood atop it, watching. On the ground below, two living sentinels waited, each one a towering wolf, cloaked in black fur with eyes like smoldering embers. They stood between 6.5 and 7 feet tall, shoulders broad, weapons at their backs, postures like statues ready to strike. They didn't speak as we approached. Instead, each raised their right fist to their chest in a salute, then dipped their heads in a tight, disciplined nod. Uday returned only the barest nod in response, enough to acknowledge but never to exalt. Inside, I could already hear life, voices, movement, and as we stepped deeper into the den, the cave opened up into a grand cavern lit by sunlight pouring through a massive break in the ceiling. At the center burned a large fire pit. Flames danced above charred logs, casting golden light across the cavern walls. Around it, logs draped in pelts formed a circle, a meeting place, the ground worn by countless gatherings and battles of will. Wolves moved throughout the den, some clad in armor, others tending to daily tasks, sharpening weapons, preparing food, meditating, training. As we passed through them, the noise did not stop, but it changed. From ledges, shadows, and upper perches, pack members observed in silence. Some crouched like predators, others stood still, their arms crossed, their eyes narrowed. Their fur ranged from ash gray to deep brown, and jet black mottled with the terrain of their neutral home. They were lean, battle-scarred, and disciplined. There were no smiles, no nods of welcome. I felt their eyes on me. Every step I took drew more stares, and with them came the murmurs. Sharp. Cutting. Who is he? He's the one she brought from the other side. He smells of weakness, of doubt. Why him? Why not one of our clan? Another outsider, another gamble. Their tongues cut as deep, if not deeper, than their stares. As I walked, the air itself seemed to recoil from me. Uday did not breathe a word. She strode ahead, determined and unrelenting, as if daring me to falter. Then, without warning, she spoke. But it wasn't to me. Her words were barely above a whisper, as if she were talking to herself. If he cannot bear the den's judgment, he does not belong within it, and I was wrong in my assessment of him. I said nothing as her words weighed upon my mind and heart alike. Whatever was to come of my time here, I would not let her leap of faith go without my full effort. I vowed to myself. As we continued deeper into the cave, the walls began to speak, not with words, but with memory. Carved into the stone were hundreds of claw marks, some shallow, some deep, all deliberate. Each mark was left by a warrior who had trained here, each one still remembered. Further in, we passed a secluded chamber where hot springs bubbled quietly, their steam swirling around meditation stones buried in the mist. This was not a place of indulgence, but of healing. Here, wolves came to mend not just the body, but the spirit. At the very heart of the den, the cavern opened into a wide, natural depression. 12 cold flame torches circled the space, their ghostly blue light flickering in silence, casting long shadows across the stone. Uday spoke softly, reverently. This is the circle of memories, a sacred meditation space where warriors commune with memory, ancestral instinct, and visions of what was and what may come. At its center rested a single object, a cracked fang, blackened and worn with age, resting atop a pedestal of fused volcanic rock. Surrounding it, 12 flat stones, each etched with the ancient runes of a fallen alpha. As I stepped into the circle, the fire dimmed. The air turned unnaturally still, as if the den itself were holding its breath. Uday's voice cut through the silence, firm but not unkind. This is not where we train our minds. It is where we remember. Sit, still your thoughts. The den does not welcome you, I do. If you seek their acceptance, then show them who you are. She stepped close, placing her hand on my shoulder, her gaze locked with mine, steady and unwavering. Commit to memory all that you see. Do not engage. If you do, your mind will be lost to the memory. I hesitated, searching my thoughts. Then I sat in the circle's center. Almost instantly, a calming sensation washed over me, like a cool breeze on a sweltering day. And then, I was gone. One moment I sat beneath stone and silence. The next, I stood in a battlefield a millennium away. The sky was ablaze, fire raining from above. All around me, chaos. I could hear the screams, shouts of rage, of pain, of defiance. The air burned with magic and steel. The battle was real, alive, and I was inside it. It took everything I had not to reach for a blade and join the fray. Instinct screamed for action, but Yudi's warning rang louder. I watched as white tigers, crocodiles, lizard men, bears, and wolves fought shoulder to shoulder against skeletal warriors clad in blackened armor. Then I saw them, 2 figures in the distance. One towered over the others, a skeletal giant, wrapped in a black cloak, wielding a jagged blade that seemed to bleed shadow. The other, standing against him, was unmistakable. The Alpha. Not just any warrior. The Alpha. The one whose memory still burned in the den. I knew it without needing to be told. As I moved closer, I saw him raise his hands. A portal tore open in the air, and from it came glowing chains, coiling and snapping around the skeletal leader. "This will not hold me!" the creature roared, its voice like cracking stone and hellfire. The chains trembled. One by one they began to break. And then the Alpha charged. With a defiant growl, he leapt forward, grabbing the creature and driving him back into the portal. Our eyes locked, his gaze like twin embers, endless and unyielding. He knew what he was doing. And then they were gone. The portal slammed shut behind them. Silence fell. I was back in the circle. It had felt like only a few seconds. But Uday told me I'd been gone a day. What I had seen lingered like smoke in my mind, thick, clinging, impossible to forget. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I saw him. Your Alpha. How could I ever come close to filling his shoes?" Our eyes met as the words left my lips. "We do not speak of him," she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Not because we have forgotten, but because we haven't healed." She stepped forward, her tone sharpening just enough to ground me. "You are not here to fill his shoes, as you put it. You are here to add to this pack, whatever it is you will bring." A pause followed, thick with meaning. Then she turned. "Now come. There is much we must discuss about what you saw, and its meaning." I stood. The ground was steady beneath me, though a faint dizziness clung to the edges of my awareness. Still, I followed her through the inner paths of the den until we reached an opening carved into the cliffside. We stood in silence as the wind moved through the trees below us, whispering through the forest like a living memory. The sun was beginning its descent, bleeding gold across the treetops. Uday remained still, her back to me, her presence as rooted as the stone we stood upon. Her voice came low and steady. "What did you see?" And so began the lesson. I told her everything: the flames, the battlefield, the skeletal warriors, the clans, fighting, dying, standing side by side, and the Alpha, the one who gave everything to seal the enemy behind that cursed portal. She listened without interrupting. When I had finished, she nodded slowly as if confirming something. "What you saw is what took place on that day," she said. "A moment sealed in time, passed through the circle so that those who must bear its burden may understand what was lost and what is rising again." She turned to face me then, her gaze steady. "I will tell you of the clans. You saw them. You must now know them." I nodded, the weight of her words settling over me. She began with the ones I had seen first. "To the west lies the Frost Peak Mountains, a place where snow never melts and the wind will flay you bare if you let it. There you will find the Frost Fang clan, white tigers with eyes of gold and hearts carved from silence. Enter their domain, and they will see you before you them. They believe strength is measured in control, not chaos. Every movement they make is deliberate. Every strike is clean. They are trained in isolation. Those who survive are welcomed into the clan but never praised. They do not trust easily. They do not speak unless it is necessary. To earn their respect is to become part of the storm itself." I pictured them again, the way they moved in the vision, swift and precise, death without sound. There had been something haunting about them, something pure, but also cold. "They won't follow me," I said quietly. "Not unless I prove something." Uday gave no answer to that, only moved on. To the south, buried in the swamps and lowlands, are the Sobekians, crocodilian warriors. Their strength lies in unity. No one moves alone. They are a military force. Every formation, every tactic drilled into them from birth. Strategy is their instinct. And some among them can spit venom with deadly precision. Their traps litter the marshes. If they don't want you to enter, you won't make it far. I remembered their movements, coordinated, relentless. Every step had a purpose. No panic, no hesitation. They fought like they'd done it 1,000 times before. "They seem prepared," I said. "They always are," she replied. "But they will not act without reason. They will not bleed without purpose." She turned her gaze eastward then, toward the vast forest and mountains that framed the horizon. "Beyond those trees live the Bear clan. We call them Ironblood. They are warriors of strength and tradition. Forest and mountain are theirs, and they wield that terrain like a weapon. They fight with axes the size of your torso, and hands that could crush bone. When they are pushed far enough, some of them enter what they call the Berserker. Their pain vanishes, their fear burns away. For a short time they become unstoppable, but it costs them dearly. I remembered the way the bears fought in the vision, how they stood against the tide like cliffs in a storm. There was rage in them, but also sorrow. They believe in single combat, Uday continued, in earning your place through battle, not words. They will respect strength, but never lies. I swallowed hard. I'd have to face one of them. Wouldn't I? You would, she said without softness. I nodded. My stomach turned, but I didn't back away. And the last? I asked. She looked to the north toward the faint shimmer of desert heat beyond the trees. The Lizard Clan, she said. We call them fire eaters. They move through the desert like sharks beneath sand, fast, quiet, deadly. They fight in pairs like mirrored predators. One shields, one strikes. They use whips, spears, shields, and speed. Efficiency is everything. They waste nothing. but their true strength lies in their elders, the salamanders, ancient warriors fused with flame. They can breathe fire, bend heat. They are living relics of the old world. I remembered the way the sand cracked beneath their feet, the shimmer of heat, the flash of movement. They had fought like dancers in a death ritual. "And what of them?" I asked. "Will they help?" "They are watching," Yude said. "Waiting. They value only purpose. If you give them one, they may rise." The air grew heavier between us. I could feel where this was going. I didn't need her to say it. "The Alpha was lost that day," she said at last, her voice quieter now. "Sealing the enemy behind the portal cost him everything. And what remained of him went with it. He bound that evil with blood and flame, but the spell has thinned over time. Now, the Ashlands burn again. The threat you saw is no longer memory. It has returned." I said nothing. I couldn't. Horrors of that day still burned into my memory. "Some clans believe," she continued. "Others do not. Some would rather hide behind their walls and pretend the fire is still long dead." Her eyes narrowed slightly as she looked back at me. "You are not here to lead them, not yet. But you must go to them. You must see them, speak with them, learn who they are, and if you are strong enough, wise enough, they may stand beside you when the fire rises again." A long silence passed between us. "Is this part of my trial?" I asked. She nodded once. "It is the beginning of it." I looked out across the forest, my mind still catching up with the truth I had been given. 4 clans, 1 rising threat, a name now etched into the bones of the world. Molgrath. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But I will be.
The clans have been revealed. The threat has awakened. And now, Neil must go forth to prove himself, to earn their trust, and to unite them before their world is covered in ash. If you've enjoyed this journey into the realm of the Dreamwalker, do us the honor of liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means more than you know. Your support fuels the stories we tell. And should you know someone who walks between worlds like Neil, share this tale with them. And as always, should you find yourself lost along your travels, let our light be your guide.